one. Madam Speaker, ladies and gentlemen, I empathize with a lot the previous speaker mentioned about how people can have a oversimplistic understanding of how these things work, or some people might even get more traumatized when they look at these things on the big screen. But I think the worst harms of what happens with this prominence over time becomes something easier to deal with, because as things become more prominent and we get more used to it, in the best case we get people to have an understanding about these things and it becomes a bit normalized, similar to what my partner talked about. Before, we didn't talk about mental health, people said it's a fucking myth, but now we start unlocking and understanding the deepest parts of that. My extension is in two parts. The first part is about how to deal with trauma, and the second part is uniquely what happens to media and how it allows you to understand the deeper sense of a particular character, relating more with your own experiences. Responses will be integrated. Let's first deal with a lot of the pushes we get coming from side opposition. The first one is about how it pushes people to experience their trauma over and over again. We think it's very simple. If you are at a very susceptible point in time wherein you might be on the verge of literally offing yourself, then it's not in your interest to watch this material. There are so many ways in society wherein we have reviews, we have people being able to rate these particular movies. In fact, before watching a lot of these content, you have constant trigger warnings either on print media or in the trailer, etc., that actually help make people not want to do it if it really harms them. So this pushes people to be able to make an informed decision and be able to grapple with these realities. The second is in terms of the whole, yo, Josef, fuck you, you're oversimplifying these particular things. We think that that's the point in which the prominence comes into play, because you can't expect one book or one film to completely depict the billions of permutations of human experience, but the point in which you're able to have at least one semblance of similarity, whether that be, oh, they're a nurse too, I'm a nurse, I'm working abroad and I also had a very traumatic thing with my employer, or, oh, this person went to school here and that guapo guy, that chinito baddie, he looks like my crush right now. These common denominators are small, but actually latch on to you and allow you to deeply put your own shoes in the shoes of that particular character. In fact, as what my partner mentioned, which they also have to respond to, is that when the prominence happens over time, you get more permutations and ideas to be able to deal with. That is to say, if you didn't relate to this person, hey man, maybe you'll fucking relate to BoJack, who's a fucking horse and is dealing with alcoholism and existential dread. It doesn't have to be like a perfect correlation, but again, finding one sort of similarity allows you to be able to grapple with those things. The third idea is on romanticization, right? We think that romanticizing something also exists on a spectrum, because we're telling you that people exist on a spectrum. Opposition side also has to contend with that people also exist on a spectrum, meaning they can't just defend this whole narrow case line of the worst of the worst, people gonna off themselves and all of that, because for every person who gets deeply scandalized by a particular book, you also have the countervailing narrative of some average white bitch who's like, this helped me understand what I'm going through, and as a consequence I kind of went to therapy to know more about it. And that's the marginal change my partner talked about with regard to at least taking a step towards maybe researching or knowing about it more, which in turn in the medium to long term hopefully allows you to like take medication when you see like this guapo chinito baddie who wanted to kill himself, didn't do it and took medication because he wanted to get better, or started speaking to a therapist. There are baby steps, right? Being able to talk to your friend, talk to your parent, etc. Uniquely, what happens on our side, through the prominence of these particular media, you have a range of outcomes. A, if the ending is good, meaning the person didn't die and he succeeded, that shows you a sense of hope that you can latch onto during your darkest days. B, it's a mid-ending, nothing too bad or too good happens. That's probably the majority of cases, because life often reverts to the mean. You have to level your expectation. You can't be too hard or too happy. C, if it's a bad ending, it allows you to be able to unlock the deepest parts of your trauma and be able to see that there may be a worst case where you never get over it, but it allows you slowly yet surely to be able to deal with these realities. In fact, when you're able to see all of the negative counterfactuals like BoJack drowning himself in alcoholism, you're able to learn by what happens and understand that, hey, if I don't get my shit together, these bad things can happen. Madam Baisa, please, go for it. Yeah. You can PY via voice. It's fine. Mm-hmm. Okay. If it's inaccurate, then people can bitch on Reddit and say, "Hey man, I have this issue. It's not like that," and we can like cancel the director and bitch about it. So all of these worst cases of accuracy or inaccuracy are a social construct, bro. Because to be honest, like what's accurate to someone might not be accurate to another. We don't really care. We think the whole range of outcomes are good. Lastly, I'll just respond to the weak internal controls that Rin talks about. I have three ways to solve that. A, stricter parental controls. B, blasting the shit out of MTCRB and other rating agencies to crack down on delinquents or people who poorly allow children to watch these shows. C, hiring better quality security guards to like not allow people access to it. Obviously, on our side, a lot of these things are maturely themed and are R18 or R21 or PG-13 at the mildest. Lastly, super quickly, how are we able to have better accurate representations? It's because you're able to see these people not just for what categorically happens, but a deeply seated empathy that Shinito Badi isn't just hot, he also had a very traumatic past. That puts color and allows us not to look at people as caricatures and actually validates the very experiences they go through that actually make it more interesting for them and also more interesting for you to be able to be less judgmental, not judging a book by its cover, and understanding what did they go through in their past that shaped them today, that may give us a sense of direction of where they could be in the future. For all of these reasons, we think this does more good, and as a consequence, we are very proud to stand on side affirmative.